Okay, so we're now in the EQ section. So I'm going to select my channel on the microphone that I'm on. And one of the coolest things I love about these boards is that they put the real-time analyzer in the board. So with my channel selected and the view button pressed, I see exactly what my voice looks like. So now as a vocalist, I'll sing, hey, ho. And you notice you see a couple of things here, and I hope you do anyway because they move real fast, is that they're overtones like, ha. You see these overtones? They're consistent intervals between my voices. Now, if you hear feedback, a lot of times it's an overtone. Like, I don't know how high I can sing here, we'll see. See, I have a 10K overtone. Okay, now if I were near a monitor that had a really strong horn, that could have caused feedback just then, because I'm getting all those intervals. There's like 6 intervals on that because it does lower overtones and higher overtones. So the feedback may not be in the middle range of my voice where my ha, that's the meat and the potatoes right there in the middle, but you'll notice all this up here. I'm not singing 10K, but yet 10K is coming into the mix. So oftentimes this will give you a visual representative of where your feedback is. So I'm gonna try to sing a pure tone that will give me like a feedback. See how that 400 hertz? Okay, let's say for instance, that's what you heard on the Sunday morning. So now how do we fix that? All right, we look at the 1, 2, 3, and 4 up here and we say, which one is closest to it? See what it did? By grabbing the EQ feature, which actually should have been the other one, but by grabbing the EQ feature and bringing it over there, I actually am pulling down the frequency that was creating. Now, you'll notice that it's kind of wide. Maybe I wasn't feeding back in any other frequencies. I can narrow this up. What did I do here? Oh, I think I changed. Yeah, so I can narrow that up. So now what I did was I just put that right over the frequency that was feeding back. So now what you would hear in the house would be different. This needs to be changed as well because this should be set to post, which means that after I make an EQ effect, it changes the RTA. So I want to set it to the selected channel, which it is, and I want to set it to post. Yeah. So pre-EQ means as it comes in. So after I make the change, that's what I want to see. And I want to see that EQ at 100%. Okay, so now when I select a channel, did I leave it? No, I changed it. But so when I select this channel, I should be able to see the changes that I'm making in my view here. See, notice how it goes way up now that I'm trying to. See how it's going down as I change it there. So that's how you can make sure that your feedback. So now at the same token, let's say, for instance, Neil's singing and Neil says, you know, I sound a little nasally today. Can you fix that for me? Well, as a sound engineer, you go, yes, sir, Captain, we'll fix that in the mix. And what you do is you look at his vocal range right here and you'll notice how, okay, these are like the warmer tones in the middle, like from 200 up to 1K. That's generally kind of a man's main range. But Neil sings high, so he gets up into this range up here. Okay, the nasally part would be kind of like in this 2K to 4K range. So if he says, man, I'm just sounding a little nasal, and you're looking at that and you're seeing, okay, man, this thing's popping up right here. What I can do, I can select my high, I can bring this down into this region, and I can dial it in. I need to change that. Specific. You notice, did you see how when I changed that, I went to this one because I want to be able to take a range. So now I'm going to spread it out between 2 and 4K right here, and I'm going to pull it down and bring it right into the middle of that, which would be 3K. So what I just did is I took the nasally sound out by reducing those frequencies that would actually be the nasally sound of his voice. You can use this for more than just fixing problems. You can use it to make things that don't sound really good better, or things that sound good better. Now, if you want to check between what you set the sound at and what you had it before, okay, so this is my voice right now. After it's EQ'd, I can turn that off. This is what it sounds like with no EQ. This is what it sounds like with EQ. So slight differences, part of that's because I'm in the wedges, so you're hearing it hit the back wall and come in. That's another thing, is when you're doing equalization, you want to mute the monitors so that you're just hearing what's in the house. And then you can, once you've got it EQ'd, if you're EQing for the house, EQ the house, then go back in and unmute your monitors. And oftentimes what I will do is set a mute group over here, which might be 4, which just mutes all the monitors. I can press that and it mutes all my monitors so that I can hear what's in the house. Then when I'm done, I can just turn that back on, unmute some monitors. Okay, so that's the equalization. We were talking about the low and the high roll-off. I absolutely use the low and the high roll-off when I am dealing with wedges. So let's just kind of create a starting point. So I'm going to do an EQ curve on a choir mix. So I don't need my choirs trying to reproduce subwoofers. So I'm going to hit the low frequency, which I have a low cut here. I can do it this way by getting it here and dragging it up, or I can turn the low cut on here. Whoops, I'm on that one. No, I can't. I can do that on individual channels. Here, I'm just functioning in this. So I can create my low frequency by rolling this up or down. My choir mics, I don't need them reproducing the super low end, you know, because what could happen is the air conditioning could come on and you end up over the mics because they're condensers and they pick up. So I set the low end, I go up to the top and I use the roll off and I take the top end and I roll it back because I don't want the feedback that can happen from a choir mic. So this is the dynamic range that I want on my choir mics. So this is basically the human voice. Maybe take that top back because you can see I'm getting a little bit of 10K up there. So I'm going to roll that off. So that's probably a better setting. You can see all of my voice is encapsulated in this, but it begins to roll off on the top end so that I don't have feedback. So this doesn't really affect the quality of the mics. It just eliminates feedback. Here's the global thing. If this button is pressed, you are running monitors. That's super important. Because if you press that button, and the church service starts, and you're over here working buttons and knobs, you are adjusting the monitors, nothing that's coming out of that house speaker. That button cannot be on when you are running sound live. This is for like rehearsal purposes, and they're saying, hey, I need more of this in my monitor, I need such as that. That's what you do in rehearsals. I generally don't press that button during the church service unless there is like a major snafu and somebody says you got to fix something, and then I go to there. But generally, that's rehearsal purposes only. So now let me explain how this works. Now, with this flashing, I can select my monitors. Y'all only have 3 monitors on stage, which is your choir mix, your organ mix, and your stage mix. I don't know what that one is. It doesn't appear to. But you'll notice how these faders jump as I press them. See all that jumping around? So what's happening is when I press this, it's choir mix. Whatever is pushed up in the faders over here is what is being fed to the choir mix.
So that's the choir there.
Well, they're down. So they're not being fed back into themselves. But now let's go over to the organ mix. The choir is being fed into the organ mix because the organist needs to hear the choir. So there is a little bit of them. You've got, I think that's Neil's handheld, his keyboard, and his vocals. So all of that is being fed into, and the praise team. So all of that is being fed into the organ mix and should be fed into the choir, to the stage mix as well. I would not put those into there. But that's the handheld, there's all your vocalists, and there's his piano. So that would be a pretty good mix. But does it make sense that when this is pressed, you select one of these 3 wedges, and then whatever you want to put into it. So like if this handheld is up there on stage, he's like, man, you were blowing me away. Turn that thing down. And I turn this down with that button and this pressed. What I just did was I turned down the handheld in the stage mix. I guess that's the black speaker. I turned that down in these wedges. Now, if I do the same thing, if I click on the organ mix and she says, turn him up, I just can't hear him, and I go to the handheld mix and I push that up, I just turned that microphone up in the organ mix. Now I'm going to confuse you. If I turn this off, I am now running live sound in the house. Does that make sense?
And those sliders will move
and these
all
faders,
of that mix up and down.
Yes, okay. This is now your master volumes for everything. So when I'm selected here, this is only the volume for whatever I'm selecting over here. But as soon as I turn that off, now I'm master faders. These are master faders for these. So I don't know if you guys ran old analog boards, but the way it would work is you would have like a row, like a blue row of knobs all the way up, and then you'd have one master. Okay. This, if you think about it, it's the same thing. These are like when you press one of these with this on, this would be like a whole blue row of knobs, and this would be your master blue knob right here. So it's like a sideways run auxiliary. And then this one would be like all the red knobs coming across. And then this is your red knob. And this might be like all your blue knobs and coming across. So whatever you do over here, when the sends on faders, whatever channel is selected here with sends on faders, you are sending those signals into this, and it doesn't matter which one of these layers you're on, you are routing it. And this is a thing that we have had issues with in the past in churches, so they would call me in a panic. Man, we just cannot figure out why this thing is doing this. This is what happens. So they press this, say this is, well, let's do it. This is your stage mix, your black cabinets up there. They do sends on faders and they go all the way down to here, to the bottom rung. Don't do that. Because what's happening is all of a sudden it's a duplicate of this, and now you're gonna start sending things that are gonna feed back on themselves back into the mix. So just use the top 3 layers. Don't delve into the 4th layer when you're in your sends on faders, because you can route things back onto themselves and you can't control them. Because they're just sitting there looping. And that happens on feedback loops. I've heard that more times than not. It's like, so the reverb sounds good, and then all of a sudden in the monitors, it just starts going, woo, 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 and just keeps building, and then it feeds back, and we have to mute the effects. And so I always ask the question, okay, so let's go down here to your effects, which are these. So like if I want to add reverb to something, I can select my reverb, I can do sends on faders, go up to my vocal channels, and you can see there's a little bit of reverb added on those 4 vocal channels. And maybe I want to put a little bit of reverb on that handheld. So that's what I just did. I just added reverb because I selected my reverb channel, my sends on faders, and I added reverb to these 4 vocal mics and that one handheld. If I want to do delay, that's my delay channel. I can do the same thing. I use reverb and delay together, and I'll explain to you why. So I bring these up just to give myself a little bit of delay. Now, over here, remember when we were on A, B, C, and D? Notice how these are flashing? So now what will happen is, if the song is going dun, bum, bum, dun, bum, da, doo, 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 dun, dun, da, dun, da, 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 dun, dun, dun. Now the delay is going to be musical because it's going to be delaying in tempo with the music. So whenever I'm using the delay, if I have this one up and I want to add delay to a channel, I just put both fingers over here and I tap to whatever the tempo of the song is, and then I gradually bring that in until I just begin to hear it, and then I stop. And now you'll get this nice delay. It's very effective and efficient on people that don't have really big voices. You can add thickness and volume to the voice without getting crazy with it. You add just enough. It's like the way that I do it is I bring it up until I hear it, and then I stop. As soon as I hear it, then it's like, okay, now it's noticeable, but I don't want the effect to be too much to take away from the vocal. So that's kind of how I do it. I'll turn it on, make sure the level's good, and then I gradually bring it up as I'm listening to them until I go up, I hear it. Now I stop. So that's how that works.
You have to continue tapping as you bring it up.
You don't, if you just tap this. Now sometimes you can do this, and I do this sometimes. On slow songs, I'll tap quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. On fast songs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That way because if they're singing a fast song and you have a long delay, they're already 5 words past the one that it's trying to delay. So fast songs, you want a quick tap time. Slow legato songs, you can do a slower, type of deal. And you can even do this. You can do this one like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the post delay 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do it like that. Again, these things are just musical selections, and you can also do the same thing by using the dial here. To me, I'm rhythmic, so I like to tap rather than trying to do the math and calculate what that beat per minute is.